So welcome back, everybody. I thought this movie was actually really good. It was sad, of course. Had some sad parts, but it was good. Now, I feel like other people didn't really quite feel the same, but I thought this movie was good. And it had Adam Driver. Listen, anything with Adam Driver in it, I'm probably gonna watch, okay? You do with that information what you will, okay? Anyways, this movie was good, I gotta admit. The opening scene where he was with his family, that was a very nice, sweet, and innocent and intimate scene. It was just very heartwarming. Okay, let me put it that way. Him talking with his wife, them watching their daughter. She was trying to do a little whistle thing. I'm not even about to try that. I thought it was very sweet, and she was talking to him, and this said, expedition you drunk low on now. 2 years long. I'm gonna need you here. But then he was like, but if I go, they can give me the money that I need to help with her condition. And I was like, oh man, his daughter has a condition. And that's why he was even contemplating or entertaining the idea of going on this 2-year journey. And I was like, oh no, I don't know. I don't know if I could be separated from somebody I love that much for 2 years. Like, I just don't know if I could handle it. So I understand them not wanting to be separated from him like that. Now, she told him, she was like, I understand. She was trying to be strong and mature, She was like, I understand. You're not doing this because of me. You're doing this for me. And I thought that was very mature of her, coming to that conclusion. And I like the way she said it. Like I said, not because of her, like, oh, you're doing this because of me. No, it was for her, because he loved them, he loved his family. He loved her. He wanted to help her. He was doing what he had to help his daughter. Like, you got to give him points for that, y'all. Like, this is a man, an honest man making an honest living. He is doing his job as a father, a provider, protector, okay, the head of the household, if you will. It just sucked, like I said, that he was going to be separated from them for 2 years. I was like, man, this is not a situation I would want to be in. But anyways, he decides to go ahead and go. And she was sending him little messages along the way. And y'all, he made it all the way there and was on the way back. And everything wrong that could have went wrong, or everything that could have went wrong, rather, went wrong on the way back. I mean, everything except him not making it went wrong. He gets these messages of his daughter, which they show you later on in the movie, of her. At first she was like, oh, I can't wait for you to come back. And then halfway through, she was like, oh, this is you're coming halfway back. Like, it's halfway, the halfway point, little dance for him. I thought it was very adorable. Then she was pissed off at him, which that, it's understandable. These are normal emotions that people are going to go through in these kind of situations. Even though she was trying to be strong, she had those moments where she just wanted her father back. Okay. And then she was like, but I love you. And then she didn't make it, y'all. And his wife was, telling him that, she didn't really suffer. She just went on, And he basically had to deal with that essentially on his own. He had to cry and mourn on his own. That had to be like the hardest thing. You know what I'm saying? And then, like I said, to make it even worse, they ended up going into an asteroid belt or something like that, some debris in space that they didn't even calculate would be there on the way back, and then gets knocked off course onto, well, Earth. They said that this was Earth, and this other planet he was from, I can't remember what the name of it was, but the planet that he landed on was Earth, apparently. 65 million years ago, right before the extinction event. That's the whole point of the movie, 65. And this man, I honestly think that he was like, he's about to say, forget it all, and just in his own self, in those kind of moments, he was alone, until he found Noah, right? He was alone. His daughter was gone. He probably had snapped a little bit inside, so the thoughts, of course, were going to go through his head. It would have went through anybody's head. I'm just kind of trying to understand, like, why wasn't he thinking of his wife? This is like, whenever I made the movie review over The Last of Us, whenever, what's his name, was about to blow his own brains out because, he had lost his daughter. I was like, well, weren't you thinking about your brother? What about your brother? Your brother needed you. Wasn't he good enough to, I don't know, think about to stay alive? You didn't think he needed you? I'm just like, okay, I get it. He was going through it, but what about your wife? Your wife still needed to get there. Maybe that was before he realized that he had an escape pod that was still working, that had crashed from his ship or whatever. But of course, the initial feeling, when he got out there and he realized he was the only survivor, and there was nobody on that planet, before he found the little girl, he probably was like, I'm not about to live through this by myself. So I can't, like I said, I get it. I'm, extending grace and mercy. I'm understanding. But he found a little girl, and I feel like they were each other's saving grace. Okay. She was keeping him alive, and he was keeping her alive. He was the reason for her to keep going, and she was the reason for him to keep going, especially. And I was like, well, there you go. You got a reason to stay here now. You know what I'm saying? And, he helped the little girl, and then she freaked out because she didn't know what was going on. She didn't know him from Paul. And of course, she ran from him, and he had to go after her. And he was like, just calm down. You're fine. We're fine. And then to make it worse, like I said, everything that could have went wrong. He's trying to communicate with her, and he can't because she doesn't even speak the same language. And then his translator broke. I was like, this is not his day today. Today is not his day at all. The translator's broke. There's a language barrier. She's distressed. She's a little girl. She is embodying childishness to a T. And he's just like, look, we got to get to the escape pod. There's an asteroid on its way here. We ain't got time to waste. And then he was like, look, you can at least understand this. Let's move. Let's get out of here. And then he goes to the table. And he's like, we got to go to the mountain or whatever. You got to follow me to the mountain. He's like drawing on, I don't know what that was. I guess it was like some spices or some powder or something. And she was like, she kept saying this word in her language. And finally, he realized she was saying family. And she had drew like, like two little people, like her parents, basically. He was like, family. She was like, family, yeah. And then she was like, you're gonna take me to my family, right? And I was like, oh my God, she's the only survivor. So that means her family's in another room. And he was looking at her like, oh my God, how do I tell this girl that she ain't got no family no more? Ain't no more family. And he in his mind, you could see the gears turning. Like, I can't tell her this because one, I literally can't because we don't speak the same language. And two, she gonna freak out. Like, she gonna be distressed. How I'm be able to bring this child where I gotta go and she ain't listening because she's upset because, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I get it, but I was like, but man, like, are you really not gonna tell her? He stood there and looked at her like, yeah, family's on the mountain. I was like, oh my God. He didn't just lied through his teeth to this girl. Got her all excited thinking her parents are still alive. That he's taking her to her parents so that he can make the journey a little bit easier. I was like, I mean, I understand, I guess, but when she find out, she gonna be mad at you, boy. I'm telling you. Anyways, so they're trying to go to the mountain, right? And then she's following him, and she's just doing, like I said, childish stuff. Picking up berries, doing stuff like jumping off. He's trying to help her. She done jumped off the stuff and then fell. He got to put little ointment on her and help her up. She's throwing berries at him, and he's looking around like he feels something hitting him. He don't know where it is. He don't know where it's coming from. And then he realizes this girl's throwing berries. He's going to turn around and grab the berry, and he's going to put it in a little thing. And that technology he had was pretty cool. And I guess it was supposed to tell him if the berries were, like, safe to eat. And he showed her the little, like, thing, and he was like, see, because it was red. And I was like, okay, obviously common sense. That's telling you, no go. Don't put that in your mouth. And he was like, don't eat these. Don't eat. And he was like opening a little thing to like make a mouth. And he was like, don't eat these. And she was just looking at him like, he was like, you eat these, it's gonna go down in your stomach and blah, and then she was like mocking him behind his back. And I'm just like, children these days. And then he fell. Oh no, he didn't fall. But that was later. Then a bug the size of Texas, y'all, flies on the back of his neck and he smashes it. And I'm like, I don't believe that you just swatting your neck smash that bug, because that was a big bug, okay? The only way you could smash something that big is if you really hit it. He would have did damage to his neck, to his spinal cord. That's what I'm, inclined to believe. But he smashed it, or maybe he grabbed it and he squished it, and guts were all in his hand. And he was like, I'm not even about to say what he said. And then she repeated it. I'm like, see, this is a prime example of why you need to watch your potty mouth around these kids, okay? They pick up everything. They soak up words and language like sponges. That's how they do. Got this girl going around using profanity, and she don't even know. Or maybe she did. I don't know. But anyways, he's trying to like rub it off on the ground, making his hands, just making it worse. And then she's just like looking at him like this is entertainment, primetime television. And then he turns around, he's like showing her his hand, and she's like, no, get away from me, get away from me. And I thought it was funny. I thought it was cute too. It was a little lighthearted moment. But in my mind too, I was like, y'all don't have time for this. Okay, you need to be getting to the mountain or wherever you're supposed to be going and taking her. And whatever that was crawling around. I also don't believe that they escaped from that, because there was that scene where they saw it moving and knocking over trees, and she was looking and he grabs her, and I don't believe that they didn't get seen by whatever that was. There was two scenes like that. They fed us with cookies. I'm just letting y'all know. Then she was following him, and he kept trying to tell her, like, pay attention to me, follow me, and just, like, do what I say do. She sees a little baby, what looked like a T-Rex, stuck in a tar pit, or quicksand, if you will. And she goes to go help, and he's like, wait, stop, stop. And then he just had to go help her, help it, because, you know, at that point, he couldn't do anything else. And I was like, so clearly y'all haven't seen Jurassic Park, because in the second movie, there was a scene that was quite similar to this. Remember when Mr. Malcolm's girlfriend went and got the baby T-Rex, helped the baby T-Rex? And how did them parents repay them? By almost unaliving them and sending them to the upper room. And the guy that was in the truck that saved them from going off the ledge, he didn't make it. So that's what they got for trying to save the baby T-Rex, okay? Pay attention and learn from other people's mistakes. Wherever there's a baby, usually there are parents or something that's going to eat the baby. So stay away. She helps it out, and then it starts like walking, and then it just gets attacked like immediately by what looked like those little mini raptors from Jurassic Park. And then she goes over there because she hears rabid sounds of an animal being ravished, you know. And then she screams, which is normal response. But then he like picks her up and covers her mouth, because he's like, you about to draw whatever's getting him to over to us, you know. And I'm like, this girl ain't got no survival skills, and I get it. She probably didn't think she needed them for this trip, but use some common sense. I don't know. She is a child after all, whatever. But and then they stopped and they were like, hold on, we heard something. And then they kind of like walked a little bit. Again, I'm not buying the little cookies. That they didn't investigate further, because they seemed like investigative creatures. But since they already had food ready for them, I guess they were like, whatever, forget it. It's probably gone now. And then she was like crying, because I know that was traumatic for her as a child, especially. And he grabs her and he was like, gotta listen to me. And I'm like, bro, she doesn't understand you. Like, and maybe she does. You know, maybe she gets like, you know, with how he was talking to her and grabbing her and like his voice, you know, that he was reprimanding her. And she was like, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that, you know. And then they go on and she's just like walking all sad and whatnot. And then he's walking, and then his little thing that was helping them track, you know, the ship that they were supposed to be going to after he didn't send out a distress beacon, the signal drops. So now he's trying to climb up a tree. And I'm like, you couldn't just go around the tree? Did you have to climb up in it? He climbs up in the tree. God only knows how many feet to try and get a better signal. Then another bug. What is it with the bugs? I don't get it. Okay. Another bug lands on him. Like I said, his reaction was completely warranted. As a matter of fact, I would have done worse. I would have screamed, would have yelled. I don't believe he survived that fall. I'm gonna go ahead and say that. But since it's Adam Driver, I'll eat the wolf cookies. Although in the deep depths of my mind, he did not survive that fall. He was actually quite high, and he hit multiple branches on the way down. Now, him dislocating his shoulder, that's more than believable, but he definitely should have been in the upper room. But anyways, he survives. And then, because of all the noise that they done made, these weird lizard, reptile, dinosaurs, if you will, come out of nowhere. And it was a lot of them. And she's freaking out because she's looking at him, because his right arm, which is the one he was shooting with, is now dislocated. He's trying to pop it back into place so that he could pick up the gun and be able to use it. Then she goes over to try to help him pop it back into place. And I was like, oh, that's such a gruesome thing. But they did what they had to do. I don't know if I would have been able to do it, but they managed to do it barely for him to get the gun and then blast them all. Now, do I believe that he was able to take all of them with the onslaught they were delivering? No, I don't. But again, since it's Adam Driver, I'll eat the wolf cookies gladly. She runs away as he's covering her, and then she gets chased over to somewhere else on top of a log. And she's just, like I said, survival skills in the negative. But it's not like she would have been able to run from them, right? So he manages to get to her just in time to blast them. And then she freaks out because one of them still tried to snatch her. I mean, the jump scares in this one, they did a good job. Like that first jump scare when he was like investigating and that little one jumped on him. And then she was like, oh, I'm good now. She's sitting on a log. And then she just gets snatched by her hoodie and drug along. And I'm like, now, I don't believe that he would have went that far without hitting a rock, not paying attention to where he was going. But, okay. She's traumatized after he chases the thing off. And she's just curled up in the ball. Like I said, understandable. She's a child. Shouldn't be going through any of this. And then he's like, listen, we gotta go. And she was like, we ain't going nowhere. She was like I said, she was traumatized. And so he just, at first he was like, we ain't got time for this. But then he realized how traumatized she was. And he was just like, okay, let's just take a moment. Now that moment turned into some hours clearly, because it was daytime, and then by the time they started moving, it was nighttime, or it was getting close to nighttime. She was still in that same fetal position. I was like, this child is permanently traumatized. You're gonna have to get her some therapy when y'all get back home. And then he does the little whistle thing, but she had her own whistle. I was like, well, look at her. She fancy. She got her own whistle. And he was like, come on, move, move, you ready to go? And she was like, okay, move. And then she goes with him, and then they go and set up camp in a cave, which I get it, that was protecting them from the rain. But again, survival skills in a cave, it's not always the best place, because there are other creatures that look for caves as well to, dwell in, especially in the rain, But he had like a little parameter set up with those little things. Like I said, his technology was on point. And then she had that little picture of his daughter, because she was like looking through stuff, and he like turned it off. And he was like, why did you take this? And I appreciate this displayed in this movie where he's the adult, right? He's the adult, she's the child. And she did some things that might have made him uncomfortable, like taking the picture of his daughter. But he could have like exploded on her, but he didn't. He had patience, and he was understanding, like she was curious quite naturally. So I appreciate that. Anyways. So he was like, okay, you go to sleep now. And so she lays down and go to sleep. And he has like the little parameter things around them, which I guess was supposed to help them detect if something was wrong inside and outside of the parameter. Like I said, like that was the coolest thing ever. And then it starts like, blinking. And I'm like, that don't look good. Then it turns red. And I was like, oh God, something bad is about to happen. He gets up and he's looking around to like check to make sure nothing is like approaching them. And then he was like, Koa, wake up. And then he rolls her over. This girl got foam coming out of her mouth. And I'm like, she ate one of them berries. I knew she was going to eat one of them berries. He told her not to do that. And then he opens her mouth and a bug's in there. Like I said, I don't know what it is, but the bugs, who had an obsession with bugs in this series, or in this movie rather, or was in the production crew that was like, we need more bugs. But I could have kept that. And so I'm like, oh, so maybe it wasn't the berries. I was wrong. Maybe it was the bug that was doing this. And then he gets it out of her, and then she like throws up all over the place. And then it's still beeping red. And I'm like, so we really got a problem to deal with. They hear noise coming from the only other hole other than the exit and the entrance that came through. And then it's raining, like I said. And I'm like, look, this is what I was talking about. Y'all are in this cave. Y'all are not the only creatures out there who are taking refuge, or would think to take refuge in this cave. Then they both got their backs turned because they too busy looking at the other hole. And then lightning flashes, and you see the silhouette of a T-Rex. I actually thought that was pretty cool. It was a jump scare, but I appreciate the cinematic beauty of it all, right? And then they kind of like slowly turn around, and they're like, something's out there, because it was pitch black. They couldn't see. And then you see the water that was like in the mouth of the cave, basically get, it was like whenever you put something underwater and it like stops the water, and they were like, something's trying to come up in here. And they saw the T-Rex, and then she freaks out and goes in the hole. And I was like, wait a minute, wasn't the noises coming from that hole though? And then he starts like blasting, and I'm like, yeah, you better blast that thing, so you can't blast no more. And it bought them enough time to be able to escape. Then they fell down there, and she was like, we got to go to the mountain. He was like, I don't have any more tools. We might be stuck up in here. And she was like, dead set on family, mountain. Like, that's what you told her, bro. And he was like, he really gonna stand there and be like, I had something to tell you. I lied to you. Your family's not up there. And she's just looking at him like, give me that shovel. And then she gonna try and like dig. I guess she thought that he was giving up or something. And he was like, of course she doesn't understand. Of course. And so then he remembered that he had, one of those little bombs. He was like, oh yeah. So he like puts it in there and he like shields her. Like I said, provide a protector instincts to the maximum. I like to see it. And he was like, are you good? She was like, yeah. And then he helps her crawl in there and then they get separated. So then she gets out and he's still in there. Now the scene where he was in there and it was pitch black and he was like, because like I said, I knew something was in there. I don't appreciate how long they took to jump scare me, because the longer you take, the more my anxiety grows. He was waiting because I know it was in there. And he knew it was in there. And then he was trying to do the little thing to like, scan the area. And I'm like, now it should have been scanned that thing was up in there. And he was shooting and then it bumps into him. And he knocks his gun out of his hand. He's trying to get the gun. It keeps dragging him away. The scene where the little thing, his little thing, I don't even know what to call it. I'm just calling it an iPad, was doing like a hologram of what was happening since we couldn't see because it was dark. I thought that was brilliant. I don't care what y'all say, but man, you can say, oh, you're so easy to please. Like, that's ridiculous. But I thought it was brilliant, okay? I thought it was brilliant. Anyways, I was like, he looks like he's getting mauled. And he came out with a couple of scratches here and there. Like, I'm not believing that he only had some scratches. Like, he had like a messed up shoulder, but he got bit on the forearm. Did y'all see that? So he should have had some teeth marks there. They were not present. But again, I will buy it with cookies from Mr. Driver. Anyways, he's trying to get out of the cage so he can go help her. And she's getting chased by another one of these things. And then she finally gains some survival skills and uses her brain. And she crawls inside of that log and traps it in there and then blows him up. Now, did she have to use that many of them? I don't think she did, but that was very smart what she did. Very resourceful. And he's yelling and screaming, trying to get to her, not paying attention to what the heck he's doing. And then he falls in some quicksand. I was like, again, everything that could have happened, that could have went wrong, I feel like it went wrong. He's sinking quickly and screaming her name. I'm like, well, you had a good run. But then she comes with a log. Now, do I believe that she could pull a grown man that was probably 2 to 3 times her size and her weight out of some quicksand? No. But say it with me, everybody. Because of Adam Driver, I'll buy the wolf cookies. She pulls him out of there, and he goes up to her, and he just hugs her. Like, he just embraces her like that's his daughter. May as well have been at this point. He was like, thank you. She was looking all worried because she didn't know what had happened to him. For all she knew, he got ate for all she knew. And then they walking back, and he's trying to show her that the asteroid, the meteorite, whatever you want to call it, is coming. And they need to haul behind where they're going. And finally they get to where they're going. And she sees all of those. Now why didn't he remember that they were dead? That's what I'm trying to figure out. He didn't think, oh yeah, when I bring her up here, those people are probably going to be up there. So I probably should like figure out an explanation. And maybe he wasn't thinking about it at the time because he was just trying to make sure they, didn't get eaten or whatever. They get up there and he's checking to make sure that the ship is still working. He's like, okay, good. The distress signal went out. The ship is still working. We can make it out of this alive. Then she's walking around looking at all of the pods of people that are basically like deceased now. And she finds her parents and she starts crying. Like, that was very heartbreaking, y'all. I was so sad when she started crying. When that little girl started crying and then she wrote those, like, what she said, like family, her parents on there. She was like family. And then she started pushing him because she was like, you told me that they were alive. And I went with you because of that. And this is how you let me know that you lied to me. And she just sat down, like the way she sat down and she was just like, holding her face because she was just so upset and distressed. That part was sad. That part hit me in the feels, y'all. I'm not going to lie. And he was like, I'm sorry. And he let her have that moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, I appreciate healthy interactions between children and adults, a parent and their child, right? Because any parent could have been like, who you think you pushing, smack. But he let her have that moment, It was warranted because he did lie to her. Of course, he had to figure out some kind of way to get her up there with the least resistance. But still, that's a horrible way for a child to find out like that. She just sat there for a moment. He was like, we have to go. I'm sorry, but we have to go. And then finally he starts to like connect with her. And he shows her that picture that she took. And he was like, this is my daughter. He was like trying to connect with her, and like I said, they realized that again they were each other's saving grace. But anyways, you know, they hug it out again, and then he gets her in the ship, and they're trying to make sure that they can get out. And then again, it's just, you know, what is it called? Occam's razor. When everything goes wrong, the worst possible scenario. I might have used the wrong term name, but it was still in effect, even at the end of the movie. The end of the movie said, y'all not about to get out of this without everything going wrong first. The doggone ship fell off of the cliff that it was on because of everything breaking up and stuff getting messed up because of the asteroids that were falling. They're upside down, and a T-Rex, I guess the one that they shot up in the cave, got mad. He wanted revenge. He found them and was like, I got y'all now. And then was trying to rip them to shreds. He manages to get out and distract them. And then another one shows up. I'm just like, are you kidding me, man? And he was about to give up again, I think. And he was like, you know, make sure you launch the ship. I'm going to hold him off. And then she played that recording of his daughter, who is something about a love, a genuine and true love. Not that toxic stuff that people be pushing on people, but genuine true love will make you get up and fight another day, another second, another minute. You know what I'm saying? He saw that you know, hologram. He was like, I gotta fight. And he started, it ignited the fire, the fatherly fire in him to get up and fight again, to protect again. And it's like, like I said, one T-Rex was enough. But then when the second one came, I just felt like they were going overkill, like I said. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, he took them both out. Great. And then the thing that had been following them that entire time that we didn't really get to see, like I said, that I wasn't buying the wolf cookies, that didn't see them, decides to make its appearance. Basically like a jumbo one of the other ones that they were fighting for. And it was creepy looking. It was like, oh, what kind of a dinosaur should we put in there? And it's like, again, like they were like, oh, we really like that thing called the Indoraptor from Jurassic Park. Let's make something that looks like that. And that's what they gave us. Like I said, that was nightmare fuel. But anyways, he tries to, you know, distract it and like takes off running. And she's like screaming because she doesn't want him to get, you know, unalived. And he is running. His gun it's gone, okay? It didn't serve its purpose. It's in the upper room of guns, right? And he's running, then he trips and falls and twists his leg up. I'm like, Occam's razor. And he's still running. I don't know how he's running with a twisted leg. He's got, like I said, he didn't got bit up, he didn't got scratched up, he didn't fell out of a tree. Okay, he didn't got bumped into and jumped on by these little, like I said, reptilian dinosaurs. He got, like I said, bit. One of his shoulders is going to need some medical attention because even though it got popped back into place, like, you still have to have medical attention after something like that. He was still going. He went back to the geysers that he had went to earlier in the movie. And I was like, you're thinking smart, man. And I'm thinking, oh, well, he got him because he got right over, you know, the hole right before it got to him. And, you know, you see the thing, it was like making all that noise. And I'm like, yeah, we got him. But apparently we didn't. Like, apparently we just, like, sprizzled him a little bit. Because then when the water went down, he was like, ah, you thought you got me. And he just steps right over it. Gets right all up in his face. Like I said, it was giving Indoraptor. Likes to play with its food. Instill a little bit of fear. Feed off of said fear. Before it delivers the final bite, so to speak. I was like, this ain't fair, man. This ain't fair. He didn't survive this whole movie for this. And I commend him for not screaming because he was just sitting there. I think at that point he was just like, I guess this is it then, you know what I'm saying? Like, he just was like laying there like, ugh, like, cause I would have been screaming to the top of my lungs. I don't know about y'all. Then this little girl comes out of nowhere and stabs it in the eye. I was like, well, that was brave. And it freaks out and then knocks her out of the way. And then it's backing up because, you know, I don't know anything that's not going to freak out after getting stabbed in the eye. And that bought enough time for him to be right over the geyser to get cooked. I was like, that's good for him. And then they managed to get back into the ship and get I don't know how they got the ship back up right, but they managed to get back in that ship into the escape pod. And they managed to get out just in time before they got messed up. It was a little too close, but he was looking at her and she was looking at him and he was like, we on the way home. And I was like, finally something has gone right in this entire movie. And they didn't even show them getting back home. That's one thing that they could have done to make this a little bit, you know, even better. I'll say, as a movie to show them back at home, him with his wife and him adopting her or something like that. We can, I guess, assume that he did, you know, like I said, may as well been his daughter now. This was a good movie, like I said, and the ending credits were very interesting, like the different pictures of, like I said, when the asteroids hit, afterwards, like the landscape, that was absolutely gorgeous. I don't know about y'all, and the music was 10/10 recommend. And that last scene, I'm assuming that was back home, you know, a picture of their home. And like I said, I thought it was a perfect ending, you know, like I said, other than them, like they could have showed us, like I said, them going back and him adopting her and like her living with him and his wife and whatnot. But like I said, I thought that this was a good movie. I don't care what anybody says. Okay, and not just because it had Adam Driver in it, but because it was a good movie. But anyways, y'all let me know what y'all think and how y'all feel down in the comments below.